All right, we're pleased to be joined once again by one of my favorites, John Nabors. Of course, you know him. Every Arkansas fan does. He's the host of Out of Bounds on 103.7 The Buzz and the outstanding Locked On Razorbacks podcast, which is now out on YouTube. Got to check it out. And he's on his way to Buffalo to see them Razorbacks kick some ass in the NCAA Tournament. John, thanks again for joining me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's always good to talk with you, and it's always good to talk with you when good stuff are going on for the Razorbacks. So it's pretty nice.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was a year ago I said, is this the best time to ever be an Arkansas fan? And you made your case that it is, and man, it has not slowed down at any point. And, I'm going to ask you a little bit of basketball, but I'm so locked in on football. I want to start there. And the Razorbacks starting spring football, of course, year 3 under Sam Pittman. Already seeing some buzz that Arkansas preseason top 10 team. That's something that you talked about on your Locked On Razorbacks podcast. Are you buying Arkansas right now as a preseason top 10 team?
I have thought about this many times, and I know that I've talked to other people too about it. And as much as I'd like to sit here and say, absolutely, this is a no-brainer, go ahead and lock them in as a top 10 team, like even me, who I will completely and totally admit that I am biased towards the Razorbacks, even all of that, I still don't believe that they are. Like, I just don't. And it's nothing against what Sam Pittman's doing, because, again, he's killing it, doing a phenomenal job, all of that. But to say you're a top 10 team, especially when you lost a bunch of defensive key pieces, you lost Traylon Burks, who we know how phenomenal of a wide receiver he is. I just can't do it. I just can't do it to the top 10. Now, are they a top 25 team? Absolutely. In fact, I would even make the argument that they're a top 20 team. I would put them, if I was having a vote, probably at the 18, 19 range, something like that. But to give them that top 10 ranking, man, there's still too many things that I need to see before I start going down that road.
Now, speaking of hype and buzz, this is something that I've been talking about, and I'm fully on the bandwagon, so I want to know your thoughts. KJ Jefferson, I'm not sitting here saying he's a lock to win the Heisman or anything. That's tough to say, but I do think he's a legitimate dark horse candidate, and I know Bryce Young is returning, but it just seems like these Heisman people, they hate the favorite, so it's almost better to be off the radar, but just on the fringe there. Do you think KJ Jefferson, if he continues to build on what he did last year, can realistically be a candidate by season's end?
I think so, just because of the type of game that he has and the type of way that he plays. Honestly, it's going to come down for KJ. Of course, you got to count on him improving from last year, which he was really good last year, but you got to count on him doing that. And in addition to that, you also have to be able to count on Arkansas's team and their offense surrounding KJ to be improved as well. And I think the running back position is going to be much improved for sure. You had some really great freshmen last year, Dominic Johnson, AJ Green, Rocket Sanders, all are really good running backs, very high caliber SEC running backs. You're fine there. You're returning 4 of your starting 5 offensive linemen. We know how important that is to a quarterback's success. They're going to be good there, especially with Sam Pittman. Tight end position, they lose Blake Kern, but their tight ends have kind of struggled a little bit. But Trey Knox, a converted wide receiver, has shifted over there. He's bulked up. He's gained a lot of weight, and I think he's going to actually be really good and an improvement there as well. So I think at tight end they'll be fine. It's going to come down to wide receivers, which we know that that's kind of the bread and butter of what makes a great quarterback. Traylon Burks has moved on. Okay. All right, so let's see what you can do, Jaden Hazelwood, kid coming in from Oklahoma, former 5-star. Can he make up for a lot of that production? What about Warren Thompson? Had a lot of good plays last year, but also had some boneheaded plays last year. Can he come in and kind of step his game up? What about Ketron Jackson? Heard a lot of big-time things from him. He was a true freshman last year, didn't get a lot of playing time, but it looks like he's going to be part of the rotation, especially with those starters. So can those guys step up and be big-time all-SEC caliber wide receivers, at least 1 or 2 of them, be to that level? If so, yes, absolutely. But KJ is going to just need to have some help from them if we want to start talking about Heisman.
It's interesting you hit on those receivers because that kind of ties into what I was going to ask you next. Malik Hornsby, there's been some speculation he may be switching a receiver, just such a talented athlete. Got to find him a way to get on the field. Do you think he's locked in completely to being a quarterback? Do you think he's going to be the backup, or do you think we could see Hornsby in, maybe in like a slash type role to where he's a quarterback, but he also is on the field at other positions?
Well, I'll say this, and not to try to act like I was some insider or anything like that, but yesterday I got to go to the Razorback watch party for the Selection Sunday for Razorback basketball, and they held that event inside Razorback Stadium in the SEC Club Suite. Well, where you sit, you can look out the windows and you can see the field, and on the field was Razorback football practicing up, running some plays, some scrimmages, and I just watched it for a bit. And Malik Hornsby was playing quarterback. He was the second string quarterback. He was running with the twos. Now, it's not to say that things can't change because there is a long time before the season starts. But seeing that out there and seeing him be the quarterback at this point in time and running with the twos once again kind of shows me that that's what his role is going to be once again. Now, they'll put him in packages. They'll probably do some different things for him as well. But it just looks like, at least during spring practice at this point in time, he's pretty solid as being the second string quarterback.
Mm-hmm. Now, you also mentioned the offensive line and 4 or 5 returning. We all know Sam Pittman, his outstanding reputation, probably the best offensive line coach in the country. How wild is it to think that this unit could be even better this year, and the Hogs led the SEC in rushing last year?
Yeah, that's the thing, man. It's like, as long as Sam Pittman is the head coach of Arkansas, you never have to worry about the offensive line. Like, that is one thing where I'm like, they may never be the most talented. They may not be the best defensively. They may have a lot of other flaws. They may not have the best wide receivers, best passing, whatever. But as long as Sam Pittman is the head coach of Arkansas, they are never going to have a bad offensive line. Like, he'll be damned before he lets that happen. And so that's where it's like, because even if you look at Arkansas's offensive line last year, you mentioned the numbers. Arkansas didn't even have really an first team all SEC caliber offensive lineman besides maybe Ricky Stromberg. But the rest of them were just kind of good offensive linemen. And then you're returning 4 or 5 next year. Myron Cunningham, the one that's leaving, yeah, he could be drafted maybe late in the NFL draft. But my point is, it wasn't like he was out there, Sam Pittman was, with a bunch of first round NFL guys and a couple of all SEC, possibly all American guys either. And that's how good their offensive line was. Cody Kennedy, the offensive line coach, was up for, I think he was a semifinalist for the Broyles Award. Like, that's incredible, all things considered. And so that's where I'm like, okay, if they did that good of a job on the offensive line with not a whole lot of high-level All-American talent, then that's just never going to be an issue or a problem. So I just don't see how the offensive line doesn't get better this upcoming year, because they aren't going to get any worse. And we know that the development has really been something that Sam Pittman has done a great job with too. So I just think it's all going to fall into place together.
And what's your expectation for Barry Odom's defense? Because, I'm seeing some question marks, particularly on the defensive front, but you may have the best safety in the SEC, Jalen Catalon. You got, basically Bobby Boucher back there, bumper pool at linebacker, tackling machine, and all these incoming transfers. How do you think these pieces come together for the Razorbacks on that side of the ball?
That's honestly the ultimate question, because you're lost your entire defensive line, and that's a little worrisome. And that's why Jamarell Ashley was fired. Sam Pittman fired him because he's the D-line coach. Because I saw somebody report, I think it was maybe Danny West of hogsports.com, that in 2 years, Arkansas did not have one single official visit from a 4-star defensive lineman in 2 years. Like, you can't have that. Like, it's one thing if you don't even get them to commit, but not even to get a visit, cannot have it. So the defensive line is going to be a question, but they made some moves. They brought in Deke Adams as the new defensive line coach. They brought in, of course, his name just escaped me, but the Georgia Tech transfer just recently, who entered in the transfer portal. He's going to be coming in. They're going to have Landon Jackson, the transfer from LSU, that possibly could play. But that's going to be the ultimate question about the defensive line. Like, they could be good, but it doesn't look good right now, and especially for depth purposes. So that's what it's going to come down to. I think the linebackers are going to be fine. You mentioned Bumper Pool coming back. Drew Sanders transferring from Alabama is going to be huge, which, people are trying to say, like, what's the expectation for him? I look at it as, hey, if there's a kid that's good enough to start at linebacker for Alabama, then he sure as hell is good enough to start at Arkansas linebacker. So I think that it's going to be the same thing with him. He's going to come in and he's going to be a huge impact as well. And you mentioned Jalen Catalon. He's going to be healthy. Ladarius Bishop is still really good. He got a lot of run last year. Miles Slusher, I know you lost Greg Brooks and Joe Fouché, but you got some guys returning there as well. And then add in Dwayne McLaughlin from LSU, the transfer there, and then Brini from Georgia, another transfer. Like, they'll be fine in the back seven. Like, the back seven of Arkansas will be fine. It's going to come down to if that defensive line can step up. If they can, Arkansas's defense is going to be salty next year. But if they can't, it's going to be problematic because you can't win in the SEC unless you have a really good defensive line.
And how impressed are you by Sam Pittman's ability to keep Barry Odom and Kendall Briles on staff when every offseason we got to hear the rumors? LSU's trying to hire Odom. Miami's trying to hire Kendall Briles, yet they remain here in Arkansas. They just got contract extensions. How impressive is that?
I'm telling you, it's something that I think continues. Maybe I look too much into it, but it continues to just full on impress me about how Sam Pittman's able to do that. And not only to do it, but to where all of the coaches just have so much respect for Sam Pittman, to where, we see changes all the time in college football, right and left, head coaches, assistant coaches. Like, look at Ole Miss. I always use them as an example. They had a phenomenal year. And what happened? They lost all three of their coordinators, and all three of their coordinators went to be coordinators somewhere else. So it wasn't even like they went for head coaches. But they had a phenomenal year, had a lot of success, and look, they already lost their coordinators, and they went for other coordinator jobs. But not at Arkansas. Arkansas had a phenomenal year too. Barry Odom and Kendall Briles are looked upon as being high-quality coordinators in their respective positions, big time. Big-time jobs try to come after them. But yet they stay at Arkansas. They don't move on. They don't try to find the next train out of town to try to leave here. They stay. And to me, that just shows you how great it must be to work for Sam Pittman, and how he has really been able to put them in positions to be successful, to where they don't want to go anywhere else. They feel right at home. They feel appreciated. They feel like they can be successful right here in Arkansas. And to me, that's what's really going to be something that later down the road too, when these guys eventually do leave, that other big time coordinators will be like, man, well, if those guys love doing it and they were there for a while, I'll go over there to Arkansas too. So it's just been incredible to see what he's been able to do to keep these assistant coaches intact.
And where do you stand on the Sam Pittman contract extension stuff? Because the guy's underpaid. We all know that. He's worth every penny he's getting. But at the same time, he's out here saying, I would never leave, and this will be my final job. So he kind of hurts himself in the contract negotiations. But is he worth, I think it's reported 7 year, $50 million, whatever it is. Do you think he's worth that type of money? And if you're Arkansas, do you give it to him?
I've always looked at it this way, and this may be a cop out to your question though. My thing is like, I don't care, and neither should fans. Why do fans care so much about what a coach gets paid? Who cares? It's not like your taxes are getting raised, because of this. It's not like your life is being impacted by it. I don't care. What I do care about is buyouts. Now, because we know about the buyouts, like that's problematic because that handcuffs the universities to where if they have a problem, they can't get out of it, or they struggle to get out of it, whatever it may be. That I do. But if Sam Pittman makes $7 million or $5 million per year, what is the difference to me? Nothing. What matters to me is, are you winning? I don't care how much you make, as long as you're winning. Because as long as you're winning, and if you're Sam Pittman, and if you're bringing in some wins, and which we know if you bring in wins in the SEC, it brings in an inordinate amount of money, then what does it matter? What Sam Pittman is worth is however much Arkansas is willing to pay him. However much he's worth is how much, if it's $5 million, $7 million, I don't care. Just keep winning. Keep winning. I'll be happy. Razorback fans will be happy, and there won't be one single person that brings up his money. But if he starts losing, people are going to be like, oh, man, we're paying this coach $5 million to lose. It's just part of it. But I just think it's so dumb when fans are trying to dictate how much a coach is worth. I'm like, dude, who cares? It has zero impact on your life as a Razorback fan. So just let it go.
Now, switching to basketball, the SEC tournament, of course, just happened, and Arkansas ran into a red-hot Texas A&M team disappointing results down there in Tampa. I thought the Razorbacks were going to win it. I thought they were playing that well heading into it. What were your thoughts on the showing there from the Razorbacks in the SEC tournament?
I was a little disappointed to see them lose to A&M, especially the way that they played. Like, they just played awful, and A&M was really hot. You just ran into a hot team, and I don't want to be this guy, but I will be this guy. I actually like it when Arkansas. I just feel like when you lose at that point in time, especially in the SEC tournament, it kind of gears you up a little bit better for the NCAA tournament, where it kind of humbles you a little bit. You get pissed off, you get a little bit motivated, like all those things together, and you go out and you are better for it. Like, you're a better team for it. So I'm hoping that's the case this time around. Like, I honestly felt like Arkansas, I don't really want them to win the SEC tournament. I don't care. I mean, if they did, it'd be nice, but it's not like something that I really, really, really want to do, especially in the fact that, like, I know it's a different sport. The Razorback baseball was the number one team in the country last year. They won the SEC tournament for the first time last year, and they got bounced out in the Super Regionals. Mm-hmm. Now, is anyone ever going to remember back on the 2021 year of being like, what a great year that was, Arkansas? They won the SEC tournament. No, because what matters is what you do in the big tournament. That's what matters. And so if you told me Arkansas could have an SEC tournament win or an SEC tournament championship and then get bounced in the second round, or they lose to A&M the way they did in the SEC tournament, but they make the Elite Eight, I'm taking the Elite Eight every single time, and I think most Razorback fans would too.
And I know, John, you're so fired up for the NCAA tournament. On your way to Buffalo to watch the Razorbacks play, what is the potential for this team? Can they make another Elite Eight type run? And, I know you saw it. Dan Wolken gave them the kiss of death, so there's already one strike against them.
I know. As soon as I saw that, I'm like, you piece of trash. Like, what are you doing, man? You already killed the vibe. But no, I think that honestly, like, I kept saying that I wanted Arkansas to get in Gonzaga's region as far as them being the 1 seed. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying Gonzaga's an easy win. I'm not. But between all 4 1 seeds, I like the chances against Gonzaga more than the others. And so Arkansas did that. They're in the Gonzaga regional, and if they were able to make it to the Sweet 16, they're more than likely going to play Gonzaga. So to me, getting to the second weekend is where it's at. If Arkansas gets to the Sweet 16, it's a successful year. Everybody's in Arkansas is going to say it's a successful year. This was a good year, great year, all of that. If you lose to Gonzaga, shucks, it's the way it goes, but it was a great run and a great year. Anything less than that will kind of be disappointing, because I just think Razorback fans are set on making the Sweet 16, and anything above that would be incredible. So I like their chances this is a better region for them to make it to the Elite Eight. If they did make it to the Elite Eight, it'd be another phenomenal year. But getting through Gonzaga and then inevitably probably playing Duke in that Elite Eight game would be really tough. So, I'm going to take it all day long, but whatever. But, yeah, second weekend or bust for Razorbacks, I think is fair.
All right, I really appreciate all your time. He's John Nabors. Give him a follow at BuzzJohnNabors. And, of course, check out his work, the host of the Out of Bounds on 103.7 The Buzz and the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. Don't forget to follow it on YouTube. He's trying to blow that thing up by the time football comes around. So, hey, I really appreciate you, John, for joining me once again.
Absolutely, man. Appreciate it as always. Thanks.
All right, so just want to say thanks again, John. Again, he's trying to really build up that YouTube channel. I subscribe to it, and if you're a real Arkansas fan, you will too over at the Locked On Razorbacks YouTube page. Check out everything he's doing there, covering the Arkansas Razorbacks, doing an outstanding job for 103.7 The Buzz. And, of course, he'll be up there in Buffalo taking in the NCAA tournament and got all the coverage you need on the men's basketball team as they look to return to the Elite Eight for the second year in a row. But, hey, that's going to do it for this episode of the show. Already got 2 guests lined up for the rest of the week. 2 first-timers, never been on the show. We're going to preview some Florida Gators, and we're kind of going to go around the league with another guest. So, that's my little tease there. So show up for the rest of the week. Got 2 more outstanding interviews to look forward to. And that's all I got on this episode. We'll catch you on the next one.